Hey everybody, so it is 10 a.m. here in Edmonton, and of course it's also Palm Sunday and day 16 of spiritual healthcare. So welcome. I know people be logging in soon. I won't keep you guys super long today because I know you guys have, probably plans and things like that, although really, where are we all going, right? So, so there is that. So glad to be connecting with everybody this morning. Last night was fantastic. It was the first live presentation online of Ritual, Exorcism in Film and Television. And it was a lot of fun. Just had a great time with everybody who attended. It was really, really great. Thank you to Crowdcast for providing such a great platform. Man, the internet is just in the evenings it is just struggling right now, so we kind of have to just be patient and just chill out while all of this gets sorted out, and the networks and things like that have to catch up, because I mean, let's face it, everybody now, right, is live streaming. Everybody's trying to make use of the wonderful platform we call the internet for shows and concerts and theatrical productions and all of that. So but it was really, really awesome. I'm just super glad that we were able to do this last night and starting to create this sort of theater environment for us to all come together and enjoy this stuff. So today, or this morning, the Cardinal in Toronto, he was on the news, and he was talking about how different it is, where before we of course would walk into this live audience, and now all of a sudden there's we have to do it online. We have to do it like this, right? So and just the difference in feel between doing something like that and going out on stage versus doing something online and whatnot. It's very different. It's very different, especially from the standpoint of a speaker or performer or whatever. It's a very new arena. So today we've got some really, really great questions. I can't wait to get into some of these, because we've got some really unique perspectives on things. We're going to be talking. We got last night actually at Ritual. We got talking about some of the First Nations, Native American lore, and stories and legends and all of that kind of thing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it today, because we've had a great question come in via email from Ross Thistle about this. So I'm really looking forward to being able to sort of crack into this afternoon. It's going to be really cool. So hey to everybody logging in. Happy Palm Sunday, as I said. It's really good to see everybody. Yet again, day 16 of spiritual healthcare. This is cool. This is great. And it's good to see everyone. I hope you guys are having a really good day. Just waiting for people to log in. Hello, Shadow. Another great question we're going to be tackling from Shadow later today as well, which is, your questions are always so good. I just love them. But the first question actually it comes from Ross Thistle, who sent in a really good one, and I know lots of people have a ton to say on this issue. He asks, what do you think about paranormal interactions with native sites, not burial grounds? The reason why I ask is that both my friend and I had an experience that we were later told was the spirit of a medicine man. I would love to discuss this with you, as it did kind of scare me a touch. So thank you, Ross. This is really, really good question. And of course, there's so many stories and lore and things like that around the idea of native sites, and there's a mystery to it. There's a mysticalness to it but very few people actually, I think, take the time to step back and understand them. There's a lot of, I think, misconceptions about them within different cultures and things like that. In Alberta, where I live, it's a very common thing here. We have very strong traditions in Métis and Cree here, as well as some of the Algonquin and things like that. And of course, as we go throughout, good morning, Des. as we go throughout, the U.S. and the eastern part of Canada. Of course, we get into the Blackfoot and different the Sioux and different peoples like that. So there's a broad range, but interestingly enough, so the phenomenon kind of overlaps one another, and you get these very different encounters that the First Nations people see and experience all the time. So it's interesting because oftentimes we think of this as, oh, it's just, it's a story, or it's it's sort of a fairy tale. We kind of brush a lot of this phenomenon off. But really, there's been encounters that describe exactly what they're talking about all over the place. Last night we got into chatting about the Wendigo during a ritual, and we talked a little bit about encounters with things like the Dogman, the Alberta Dogman. The Beast of Bray Road is another example of one of the Dogman sightings, which has been tied to these Native American sites. So I think, honestly, a lot of what they are encountering is just another level of awareness. I don't think necessarily that we're that they're telling us about something that's just a story, because when you ask them about it, they will tell you straight up that this stuff absolutely happens. So we have to remember that every single culture experiences paranormal activity, first of all, and second of all cultures end up creating a story around these incidents to explain it, right? So we see it in different cultures, we see it in different religions, all the way back to the Paleolithic times, when we started reading the first encounters of shamanism and things like that. So it's throughout history, but it's not something that we want to just brush off and make light of, because honestly, when we get into these very interesting, unique tales, I was mentioning last night, I've been working on a case recently regarding some of these dogmen sightings in Alberta up until the COVID-19 thing sort of broke out, and it's absolutely fascinating with what people have to say. There was an encounter down in the U.S., because I think a lot of people attach these notions of things like the Dogman to cryptozoology and stuff like that. But there was a very interesting encounter down in the States where an investigator had actually put out a trail cam near a farm where one of these dogmen sightings were happening, and he left out a great big piece of raw meat as well. So he put the trail cam out, put the raw meat out just to see what would happen. And something really unique, it actually got caught on film that I don't think anybody was expecting. They ended up catching this sort of misty, opaque form that showed up on the trail cam, and it sort of drifted in and it hung there for a little bit, and then it seemed to take off. And when they went back to go and get the meat was gone. It was really, really, really weird. And they had been seeing in the area this dogman, eating and on the side of the road and whatever. And they're usually seeing these sort of great big sort of werewolf looking things that are bipedal. And it's very, very interesting to see where some of this goes. So the interaction between, I think, some of these native sites where people are putting, a great amount of focus, oftentimes a great amount of prayer, a lot of positive energy in some, negative energy in others. So when we're talking about Native American sites, it's not necessarily something that's been designated by the people. Sometimes it's been designated by trauma, right? So especially in Alberta, we get a lot of that. Alberta has got a very, and just Canada in general, but Alberta's got a nasty history of abuses that have gone on with the Native people in general. So for example, we have a abandoned hospital here, and that hospital used to be a tuberculosis hospital, and it was designated a tuberculosis hospital, and the First Nations people that lived up north were brought down to Edmonton. They didn't speak the language. They were without their families and whatever. and they were treated at this hospital, but there were allegations and rumors of severe abuse that went on, and are still descendants and whatnot of the people. This happened in the 1950s. This was not something that was 100 years ago, where the descendants of the families are still going, how could you guys ignore this? What are you doing? And there were mass graves allegedly buried all over both the grounds of this hospital as well as some of the reserves in and around Alberta. So here we've also got a situation where we've got what a lot would consider like a native site, but it's not necessarily designated because of a peaceful ritual or something like that. So, in those types of situations, again, we're kind of looking at the idea of generational trauma that's affecting the space. It's affecting, of course, our mindset as to how we go into that space, because we've got this preconceived idea as to what's going on. So there's a lot of different factors that would make up this term just in and of itself. But anytime you've got focus into these various things, and you've got whether it be negative, positive, or otherwise, then you're creating your reality, and you're creating that energy in the space, right? So that's my thought on things like native sites. And I think when you get the privilege of being on one of these, being on a site and having one of these positive experiences where you feel like you've encountered, like as Ross did, like a medicine man or something like that. It's really, really important to be able to just say thank you and respect the area that you're in. I think it's something that investigators forget about, because sometimes everybody is so interested in the research, or they're so interested in the phenomenon that's going on, that we kind of forget that it's like, there's been a lot of focus and deliberate focus that has been put here. And when we have that consciousness creating these energies and creating these intelligences, I think we have to respect that and pay attention. And it's a great lead-in to Shadow's question, because her question, I think, is really poignant, and I'll read this to you guys here. I feel and think that most others in the paranormal field do as well, that spirits or entities feed off of human consciousness or energy in order to manifest or move tangible items. Do you feel that this is a correct assumption? And that if we perceive that as true, why would a ghost or spirit do something like pushing people down the stairs, or doing something that could ultimately harm their conductor? Love this question. Really, really cool and super insightful. So I would argue that it comes from a bit of a false premise. I would argue that they are a part of that human consciousness. I think again, we're sort of dragging ourselves back into the whole hard problem of is consciousness fundamental or emergent? If it's emergent, then it's coming from the brain, and that's becoming a projection. But if it's fundamental, then we've got something that is all encompassing, right? So if the current model, the current scientific model, is now leaning towards it being a fundamental principle that the consciousess is outside of us, I would argue that those intelligences are a part of that encompassing consciousness. And it's an extension of that, just as we are. We happen to have physical bodies and whatnot, but they don't. So when we get incidents like pushing people down the stairs, or violence, or anything that could harm somebody, we're dealing with a different type of phenomenon that is typically resulting in like a negative entity that isn't people or wasn't people. That's usually the point in time where we start to see violence crop up, like pushing or shoving or biting and stuff like that. And in those cases, when people ask, okay, well, what is it? What is it that causes that? What type of intelligence causes that? What we've noticed is the fact that it seems like these negative focused energies have been created by negative focused thought. We've noticed a direct correlation between people that have been in a negative headspace for a really long time, or a group of people, for instance, I mentioned before that Greyfriars Kirkyard is a really great example of this, because the Greyfriars Kirkyard used to be, it's in the UK, and it used to be a holding place for people, for sick people. I can't remember which pandemic it was. It could have been I think it was it could have been the Black Plague, but it was a holding place. So everybody that was sick got stuck into this pen, basically. And Greyfriars Kirkyard became sort of this hub for people who were miserable and depressed and sick and all of this. And now all of a sudden, we've got this negative entity that's kind of shown up in the space, and they've had to shut down much of Greyfriars Kirkyard to the public because of it. People have been bitten and scratched and attacked and pushed and all sorts of crazy things. So we see this kind of correlation where we've got, this sort of animal-like intelligence that's coming out of a place where there's all of this negativity. So I don't think necessarily that it is something that is feeding off of it, rather than it is something that is born from it, if that makes any sense. Des, are some ghosts just assholes? The funny thing is, when we get to people who are, that have made that transition into non-physical, no, we don't usually see that. With the negative entities, yeah, they can be absolute pricks. No question about it. Total pricks. And dangerous. Some of them can be quite dangerous. So, it's really, really funny because, you get the people who pass over, who oftentimes were real assholes in life. We usually don't see that once they make that transition. When they end up being spoken to in non-physical, or somebody's channeling them or something like that, sometimes they're not even recognized because the personality shift has been so drastic. So it's it's kind of funny. However, I must say, there has been numerous accounts and numerous incidents of people being checked up on by loved ones. And if somebody, for example, gets into a relationship and that relationship is kind of toxic, and you've got somebody who is like watching out for you in that regard, man, God help whoever it is treating you like crap, because there has been many incidents where they have stepped in. One of my favorite cases of something like that was it was a couple of robbers who had broken into a home, and the home happened to be haunted, and they ended up, needless to say, running out the door. They were just absolutely terrified, and when they reported to the police later, they actually turned themselves in. And when they reported to the police later, they said, we don't know what's wrong with this house. We basically got chased out by something, and I guess stuff was flying and all sorts of things. Whoever it was going to protect their house and whoever was living there, which was pretty cool. So yeah, they can be assholes, but it depends on it depends on, I think, what end of the stick you're on too, right? So it's so interesting. So I was going to read a little bit to you guys today from a new book. It's called Faith in the Valley by Iyanla Vanzant. And if you guys do not know Iyanla, I highly recommend checking her out. She's a lawyer and a minister and a life coach and her list of credentials is amazing. But she has a fantastic show on the OWN network called Iyanla Fix My Life. It's amazing. She does live streams really early in the morning with also some great tools and tips. If you guys want to check that out as well, I will put a link to her page on the Facebook page here for Entity Seeker, so you guys can check it out, because her advice is invaluable. It's just incredible. So this is from Faith in the Valley, babe, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So this is something that you guys can actually say to yourselves when things kind of get rough. Because the one thing I've noticed about the pandemic, just in general, is the fact that a lot of people are handling it very well. There's a lot of people that aren't. There's a lot of people that they're kind of losing it, and sometimes when people get stressed out or they get super fearful or anything like that, you have to start to be careful a little bit, because People can make rash decisions, and some people just don't want help. Some people just don't. And that's okay. That's okay. It's not your job to go in and to dig them out of their hole. It's great to be able to offer help when it's being received, but there's a point at which you kind of have to meet people where they are and then leave them there, right? So that's what this is for. Dear self, it is a joy to help those who are earnestly seeking a better life. However, you must always remember, you cannot want more for people than they want for themselves. You cannot give someone something that they are not looking for. You cannot help someone who does not want to be helped. And when you get angry at those you are helping, giving, and wanting for, it's time to let go. Love, it's not to die for. So I wanted to pass that on to you guys because I've been noticing that. Oh, thank you, Serena. Thank you for being here and hearing it and just joining in, all of that. It means so much to me, just as much as it does to you. So I think this concept is something we kind of have to get our heads around. It's really difficult to understand why some people are just saying, like, you know, I'm going to sit in victimhood, or I'm going to be the victim, and whatever. But sometimes we have to learn to thrive quietly. One of my best friends and I, we've been chatting about this quite a bit, is that you know, there's a time where, of course, we have to share what we have. We have to share our resources. We have to share you know, whatever we have. We can't be hoarding stuff right now. It's just a bad thing to do. But we do have to also be mindful of where we're putting our energy and how much we're putting out there. Because honestly, when we get people who are, you know, they're determined not to help themselves, or they're determined to sit in that place of victimness, I think, you know, at that point, it's so easy to get sucked in to, you know, well, you know, you should want help. And if I just help you a little bit more, then you'll understand, or you'll get it. And, you know, it's something I've learned with clients over many, many years of doing this, is that some people, they just like to sit in the victim. So, oh, thank you, Irene. That's awesome. I think we do. I think we just have to, we have to, as I say, meet people where they are, and then just know when to let them be where they are. And, you know, we can sit back and be that guiding light, and, you know, be positive and thrive and do what we're doing, and be the light over here that calls them to, rather than going into the dark to get them. Because us going into the dark, we can't make ourselves sick enough, or unhappy enough, or depressed enough to help and pull somebody forward. It just doesn't work like that. So something to think about. So I was going to give you guys a really neat process to do today. And this is really interesting because I'm working on this right now, and I wanted to share it with you guys so that you could do it too. So we've been doing so much journaling work and playing around with, you know, manifestation and creating what we want going forward. And I think it's really important that we have a space in order to do that. Now, sometimes with kids, this kind of gets a little bit tricky, but you'll have to explain to them that this space is not their space. It's your space, not their space. So what my thoughts is about this is to be able to have a safe space that you guys can go to for the journaling work, for the you know, for the creative box that we talked about before, and to be able to have that space where you can sit down, do some meditation, do your deep breathing, do your reading, like whatever that is, you know, whatever it is for you, whatever book it is, whatever, where you can get in that peaceful headspace, and nothing else is done in that space other than the work that you need in order to rejuvenate yourself. So it doesn't matter where it is in the house, you know, you pick a spot. It doesn't have to be big. You know, it can even be as simple as, you know, your desk and how you kind of change your desk around, or things like that, and putting things there that you really love, putting, you know, your favorite candles or the favorite smells and your favorite photos. Hold on, let's check this out. See, I've got this is my little snake, Galen. That's Galen there. So he's on my desk with me all the time, every day. And in the evenings, he's actually physically on my desk because he's playing. But, so he is on my desk. Every day I get up and I sit down and I get to deal, talk with you guys, and I get to see him there and whatever. So but whatever it is for you guys, like, find the things that you really love, your favorite books, and be able to close yourself in there for a little while you're doing this work, and you'll have that nice, really creative sanctuary where you can just be a little bit more peaceful. And the kids, tell the kids, just go away. Go away. This isn't your space. Go away. We'll make them a space somewhere else. So, yeah. All right. So, also, something to do for you guys over the next little while, talking about reading. Haunted Magazine has an app now. And I have been a contributing writer for Haunted Magazine now for about a year, and I absolutely love it. The magazine, the stories, they're super cool. It's phenomenal, and it's a great app. So anyway, you can get the current issues of Haunted Magazine online for free, okay? And you can just go through the latest issue. I wrote an article in this last one about my work with the fire arts, and there's great writers in there like Richard Estep, John Barry. There's some really, really cool people. So check out the Haunted Magazine app, because it's awesome. And it's, as I say, it's something to read, and there's so many cool stories in it as well, which is awesome. Now, that being said, our health affirmations. Everybody take a breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve their individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to gently, eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it's reversing its course right now. There's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do, and well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body. My cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe. And I can do that easily. Everybody take a breath. Thank you guys so much for another wonderful morning of spiritual health care. I have got some really neat, news coming up soon for you guys regarding all of this. And I'm really looking forward to being able to share it with you. I'm going to be doing a life class that is going to be coming out online for you guys to join and attend, up and above from spiritual healthcare here. So it's going to be pretty cool. Once I have more information on that, I'm just trying to sort of solidify a platform. I'm going to be talking with some tech people about that this afternoon, and it's going to be super cool. So I'm really looking forward to be able to share this with you guys. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be coursework. There's going to be all sorts of things. So we're going to have a blast with it once it gets up and running, and it's going to be really great. So anyway, have a wonderful Palm Sunday, everyone. Be safe, enjoy your day, and there's always great love here for you guys. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Spiritual Healthcare, day 17 tomorrow. So bye, guys.